Welcome to Groom Scroll. Bum bum bum. Like, you know what I mean? There should be like a little intro.
That's
Is
gonna be it. I'm just gonna add some noise to it.
Are you ready to rumble?
I'm ready to get into talking about the tale, this week's Groom Scroll. Sarah, this was
Mhm.
your selection. I definitely heard about this from you. Do you remember when you first heard about the tale?
Somebody suggested it season 1. I'd have to go back through my messages and figure out who was the first person that brought it up. I think a listener had suggested it pretty early on in season 1. And I put it in my list going into this season. I feel like I was a little hesitant because I was like, this one's going to be heavy. Like I could just tell from the trailer that it was going to be like, you know, not a whimsical conversation like we had about like Labyrinth or something.
Hmm. Now that you mention it, I feel like I have seen this one come across in our listener emails for
Mhm.
recommendations for Groom Scroll. I had not looked into much as far as, like, what it was about, and when you had mentioned that it's about child abuse, in my mind, I went to, like, physical abuse, and I was, like, thinking to
Mm.
myself, "Oh, no, that on top of sexual abuse, I don't know if my brain can handle that." So that's why I think I had no problem pushing it back, but I'm really happy that we came around to it because, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I seem to recall that it was based on a true story. So it is based on a true story. I read an article that Jennifer Fox, she changed some of the details,
Mhm.
but it is based on a true story. It is a 2018 HBO film directed by Jennifer Fox, who is also the main character. The synopsis on IMDb is a woman filming a documentary on childhood rape victims starts to question the nature of her childhood relationship with her writing instructor and running coach. So the movie opens up with Laura Dern. She's playing Jennifer Fox. She's filming a documentary and she is on site. And we see her get a call from her mother, and her mother is very frantic. And I don't know, you don't really know the whole story, but you're kind of hearing that there's something that her mom found that she like really wants to talk to her daughter about. So in the opening, like we see the women that she's documenting, but I guess I didn't realize that she was doing a documentary about childhood rape victims at the time.
Well, the only time that I kind of picked up on that is later on it shows her trying to do editing work and she's like it
Mhm.
shows a clip of one of the women talking about abuse, but until that point, I didn't pick up on that at all. Like I don't feel like that was like overly explicit, or if it was, I missed it. But if we both missed it, then I'd say it wasn't overly explicit that the film that she's working on in the beginning was about sexual abuse. And I don't know that it matters, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that feels kind of secondary to the whole story. It's kind of like, yeah, she has a job. She's supposed to be working on this thing. And then, yeah, her mom calling and saying, I found these letters or I found these writings that you made as a kid. Like, what the fuck happened? We need to talk about this is like the catalyst for her, kind of going detective mode on her own life, and then the job part of it's kind of in the background of this, like, I'm not getting my job done because I'm really distracted. Like there's all these scenes of her trying to like edit and then she keeps like going back to like her own stuff and like her own history and like it keeps pulling her away from, her day job.
Yeah, and I think that's let me try to figure out how I wanna piece this together. I see it in my brain. So the fact that if we missed or yeah, I missed this detail about how this documentary is about childhood rape victims.
Mhm.
She there's a scene early on, I think when she's doing some of the editing, and one of the women is talking about how she doesn't really see herself as a mother or something about motherhood.
Mhm.
And that's the first flashback that we see Jennifer
Mhm.
have is like that topic then led to her having this flashback of her just not even of her, but of two people from her past running.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what opens this floodgate. So yeah, although it wasn't, I think, like, as explicit, and like you're saying,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, but I did think it was kind of an interesting thing that that topic, the topic of, like, motherhood and childhood rape
Mhm.
and sexual abuse, hearing it from someone else was getting the gears turning in her.
I wrote down so many notes about this movie, by the way. As I was watching it, I have like 2.5 pages of notes. I think if yeah, I'm just gonna jump into my thoughts. So I was like really taken aback by how accurate the depiction in this movie was of unearthing memories.
Mm.
Like like, it was so like, the whole time I was like, "Yes, this." Like, I kept being like, "Holy shit," like, the way that they show, because yeah, her first, like, flashback is of, like, her, writing teacher, so, like, learning horseback riding, and then this other man who ends up being, like, a running coach that's part of her horseback training. It's like you need to have good stamina and all this stuff. Stamina. And but I loved the part where they showed like, where she sees herself in the memory and she's like a I don't know, 15, 16-year-old girl or something, and she comes up on this horse and they show her walking next to the horse and she's like the same height as the horse, and they like have all these like scenes of her with the writing teacher and this guy and like depicting all these things. And then, a couple scenes later in the movie, she says to her mom, like, "Oh, I can't find any pictures of myself from that summer. Oh, here's one." And her mom's like, "No, that's you like 3 years later." And her mom shows her a photo of what she looked like at the time of this summer when this, experience, in her mind at that point, still an experience, took place. And she's like 13 and she looks like she's like 8, like she looks really young. And then it flashes back to all those memories and shows a different actress who is much shorter in all the exact same shots. And I was just like, holy shit, this is like the most perfect depiction of like recovering your own memories and like that idea of like you think you're so fucking grown up when you're
Mm,
young and
yeah.
you perceive yourself so much more adult like than you are. Like I was floored by that aspect of it. And it happened a lot throughout the film where it would be like, the fireplace was on and then he'd say something like, "Oh, well, I could start a fire." And then all of a sudden the fire was out. And it's like, "Oh, because there wasn't a fire." Like all these, because I feel like
Yeah.
you and I talked about this so much, like in our experience of kind of unearthing our abuse is like you'd have these memories and then you would talk to somebody and they'd be like, "No, dude, that was the spring, not the fall." And all of a sudden your brain would go, "Whoop." And it was just like in the movie where it was like, and your brain would like readjust and be like, "Shit, you're right. It was the fall." And for some reason I thought it was the spring. Like I don't think I've ever seen anything that I thought like depicted like recovering traumatic memory and like the pliability of memory in the way that it does in this film. I thought was really cool. I don't know. What did you
Yeah.
think of that stuff?
Yeah, so you had texted me that you could tell something about like you can tell that this was made from both like a survivor's point of view.
Mhm.
And yes, I have in my notes that I really like the way that they show how flashbacks and memories can creep in just like random moments throughout the day.
Yeah.
I didn't write down like a specific example, but I remember seeing a few of those where it's like, and sometimes there is like a thread there, like, right, there's like a smell or there's something you're seeing or there's something
Mhm.
that then like kind of gets that memory going. But yeah, I really like that as well, and it stirred up a lot in me, stuff that I feel like I'm gonna bring up with my therapist.
Mhm.
But what do you think about the dynamic between Jennifer and her mom? Because her mom is the one who's kinda like, "You have to
Mhm.
read this and we have to talk," but she's kind of like pushing it on her.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is also maybe some guilt.
Yeah, so yeah, the mom is the one that finds. I feel like we're terrible at this. The mom finds pretty much the, Laura Dern's character, what's her name? Jennifer?
Jennifer. Yeah.
I'm so bad with names, yes. She finds Jennifer, her daughter's, like, it's supposed to be like a short story that she wrote for school, and at the time she had said was like, fiction, but clearly, as her mom's reading it now years later, it's not. And in the story, she talks about her, like, quote unquote, "first boyfriend," which is this grown adult man who was supposed to be her instructor, as Jennifer was like 13 years old. Mom finds it, she flips out, yes, and she like calls her daughter and I was like, "What the fuck? We need to talk about this. You need to deal with this. I found him. We need to take him down." Like she goes into full activation mode. And I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of it, because later on there's a scene with the mom and her where, the mom like apologizes and clearly feels bad for missing it, because I think there's like 5 kids in total. She's the oldest. Like, she kind of got lost in the shuffle. The mom was clearly busy. Like, every scene they showed of her home was just chaos. You know what I mean? Kids screaming, and there's a grandma
Yeah.
there that's helping. Which I thought there was some really interesting stuff with the grandma too. But yeah, I mean, I think her mom's response in the, present day was coming from a place of guilt and like wanting to protect her daughter now, but being very forceful about it. Because you could argue like you really shouldn't like force somebody to try to deal with this situation if they're not ready. But at the same time, she probably never would have been. Her
Mhm.
mom calling was her aha moment. Like there was no, it didn't
Yeah.
seem like any part of that was breaking down for her because she's really resistant to it for the first chunk of the movie. Like she's super like, "Mom, you're being ridiculous. This is no big deal."
Mhm.
Yeah, I really liked the boyfriend character that he immediately was like, "This is rape. You were a victim. You need to go to a therapist." I was like, "Damn, dude, like
I know, and she
and
pushes him
easy on
away.
the eyes." Yes. But I also thought that that was a really genuine depiction of
Yeah.
someone who has trauma who's not ready. She's so mean to him. Like she's yelling at him and she's like kicks him out of the apartment. And I was like, yeah, that's what people do when they're like, because she feels cornered, right? Like
Yeah.
she's not ready to have this conversation, even though the people around her, her mom and her boyfriend are like being gentle with her and like trying to care for her. It's crumbling this story that she's been telling herself, right? And that feels like it's dangerous. And so she's, yeah, really lashes out at both of them, which again, I thought was like
Mm.
refreshing to see. Like they didn't depict her as like a perfect victim. You know what I mean? Because she's like being a kind of a bitch about some stuff. And like, I think it's good because guess what?
That's
You and
how
have also been bitches.
yes.
I
That's
mean,
how some of us react. Yeah, when he says to her, "Why do you?" Because she's thinking about like getting back in touch with or finding, reaching out to Mrs. G. That's the name of her writing instructor, and Bill. That was the name of the her I guess running coach. It's revealed that Mrs. G and Bill are a pair. Oh yeah, so she wants to get back in touch with them, and Martin,
mhm,
her played by Common, says to her, "Why do you want to find them when you're the victim?" And she just gets so offended by that word, victim, and says, "Do not call me
mhm,
that." And she keeps repeating, "I'm going to figure this on my own. Let me figure this out on my own. I need to do this on my own." And that was hard for me because, on one hand, like, yes, I get that mentality, right? Like, I get that, like, just, I'm going to figure this out. Let me do it. But at the same time, I know, like, we don't have to carry that load alone. So,
yeah.
yeah, it was, I think they did a good job portraying that, and then it's I saw that and I thought to myself, there's gotta be partners out there, right? That, like, let their survivor partner have a moment and then,
Mhm.
like, hold space for that and not then call them the bad guy for having a moment. So, like, it
I
just stirred up
think
some
so.
stuff in
Yep,
me,
yep, yep.
you
I would say
know?
that though I mean, yeah, like, I would say those people do exist. There's definitely been times where I have flipped out at Carl. Like, not I would say I have, like, a hypersensitivity, and that's just all I ever talk to my therapist about. When I have a perception of not being safe, I flip out pretty hard. Like, I really, really do, and, like, all of my issues, that's always the root, right? Like, it is just, like, I don't feel like I'm safe, right? And so I do have times where I feel like Carl and I have had something where to him, it seems like this really small slight, like this little tiny thing that he didn't listen about, or this little thing that I asked him to do and he didn't do. And to me, it's like this giant triggering thing. And yeah, I mean, I've had freakouts where I'm just like yelling and I'm just like, I don't feel safe and you're not listening to me and you're not respecting that I need that, and I'm like, I know I'm overreacting, but like, here we go. Like, nervous system is cranked up. I'm screaming, it's happening. And then I calm down and he like, yeah, he always is just like, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like because we've had enough conversations that he understands that it's coming from
Mhm.
way before him, right? Like, so sorry, buddy. Like, this is nothing about you, but the fact that you
Yeah.
like, whatever the thing was, it's never anything big. It's always some, little thing, but it's about boundaries, right? And like setting them and people not like listening to them. But yeah, I think those people do exist and they are out there and you will find a place and a person that can hold that space for you. But I liked that this movie showed a person who maybe wasn't ready and was really struggling to transition in their mind that idea of I was in this romantic affair to I was abused, and they were surrounded by really nurturing people that let them go on that journey. Like, and
Yeah.
I think it was really cool. Like, I just don't think you see that a lot depicted in things. Like, either it's just about the survivor and they don't really show you like their support system, or their support system is like not maybe doing the best themselves. And obviously, this is a movie, not a documentary. So it's like, you don't see a lot of development necessarily like over time with some of the characters. So maybe it's kind of a sugar-coated version of the reality. And even the grandma, I thought it was really interesting, the flashbacks of the grandma they showed. I mean, she was only in like 2 scenes, I think, but there's one scene where she's talking about how there was like a rape in their town or something, and she's like talking about the daughter, and she's like, well, I don't know why you're letting her go out. Like, there was this rape, it was in the newspaper, like, you have to be careful. And the dad like pulls the mom aside and is like, you need to tell your mom to shut the
Yeah.
fuck up, essentially. And I was like, God, that's such a red flag, right? Like, there's this elder who is like, this is a reality of the world that we live in. I am concerned about this girl. What, where is she going? Who is she spending time with? And then the father figure is like, that's gross, I don't want to talk about it. Like, there was this person that
Mhm.
maybe could have helped her or protected her, and it was like shut down. I feel like there was another part with the grandma where she says something else to her. But yeah, that's like the 2 scenes of the grandma. It's like both times she's pretty much just like, everything okay? Like, kind of like, what's going on? So like
Yeah.
she kind of picks up on it.
With the dad, I feel, I don't know, was a classic dad probably at that time. It was just like all about work, 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 and the woman is the runs the house, and he's just too busy with
Mhm.
work to pay attention to what's going on with his family. I don't know who brought it up later in the future. It might have been Jennifer, or it was her mom, but they remember that when Bill came over to pick up Jenny from her home, that he brought gifts for the parents, and that they were
Yeah.
kind of looking at that, retrospectively, and we're like, "Oh, yeah, that's kinda weird," and, I
Oh,
think
yeah, because I think that's the scene with the grandma where the grandma was like, "This is no good. What's going on with this guy?" And they kinda, like,
Mhm.
shot the grandma down at that point too.
Yeah, so I think it also did a good job of showing how adults groom adults, right? Like
Mhm.
Mrs. G it kind of also reminded me a little bit of, like, Mrs. G was giving a little bit of Ghislaine Maxwell, where she's like
Oh,
this
yeah.
woman with an accent who's just, like, beautiful and so confident and
Mhm.
so self-assured, and, like, lures you in with this feminine gentleness, but then also ends up being just as problematic as, the actual sexual abuser.
And is an attempted
Yes.
sexual abuser, like,
Yes. I know. There's so
wants
much.
wants to get there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because before there's even there's even a situation for Jenny to be picked up from Bill. Bill and Mrs. G, what's her name? Jane? I think her name is Jane.
I just call her Mrs.
Um,
G the whole time.
yeah, so they have this conversation with Jenny about how basically they want her to, she's so good and shows so much promise, and she's like outrunning the other girls, that they want to give her like
Mhm.
special individual running or writing instruction. And but they're using like very grooming language of like building this relationship on trust, and how they don't want to lie to each other, and they say like, we don't want to keep anything from you, so we're letting you know
Mhm.
that Mrs. G and I are together, like we're together, we're a thing, which is also weird. Like, you don't need to share that with your student.
That's classic grooming behavior if they tell her it's a secret and not to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And just like in the
Yeah.
one of the
Yes.
very first scenes when because part of it also is that these girls that are at this camp for the summer, like learning to horseback ride, they're like there all the time and they're like hanging out in the house. And they show Mrs. G like or Miss G making a pie. and she, like, gives her a tip on, like, how to make the pie and have it not to be, like, soggy, and she's like, "But that's our secret, don't tell anyone." So, like, the first scene that you see her alone or with Jenny, she's, like, already starting that, like, "This is our secret, and I'm gonna see if you're gonna keep it."
Mm. Yeah.
It's, like, immediate that she starts kind of playing around with those, like, testing her boundaries.
So they say to her, "We'll form our own family based on complete honesty and love, hiding
Mhm.
nothing, just the truth." And so Jenny is also she's confided in Bill and Mrs. G that she's not very happy with her home life. Like her parents aren't
Mhm.
being physically abusive or entirely neglectful or anything, but they're busy parents with like 5 kids and she's coming of age. It's normal for teenagers to be angsty about their home life.
Mhm.
So she confides that in Bill and Mrs. G and they use that. Like another
Yeah.
classic grooming, right? They use that and are like, "Well, come here to us and we'll have our own little family and we'll just love each other and not hide anything." And then eventually we see Bill and Jenny have, like, some solo time that is seemingly approved by Mrs. G and
Mhm.
the parents don't know that she's gonna be alone, right? No, I don't think they know that she's gonna be
I don't
alone
think they
with
know at
them.
that point. I don't think they know at that point because it's all very like, "Oh, I'll just take her over to Miss G." Like, yeah, they're kinda lying to the parents about how much time she's spending with them because I feel like they were, like, not that neglectful that they would've been like, "Okay, like, go sleep over
Yeah.
at this guy's house." You know what I mean? Like, I think there was definitely kind of lying going on about her exposure to him at that point.
We see kind of this series of nights that Jenny spent with Bill and how he was sexually abusing her and the things that he was
Mhm.
saying to her and I like that they did film it in a way that you can tell it's not the actual actress who I think was like
Yeah.
14 or 15 when she was filming
Mhm.
that you could
Yeah,
tell
I had
it's
the same
totally
thought.
someone
Like, there
different.
was, like, an angle where I was like, "That's clearly, like,
Yeah.
an adult woman," and I was like, "This makes me very happy," because I was like
Yes.
because they really yeah, I would say obvious trigger warning. This movie is very much about sexual abuse of a minor, and it is pretty explicit. Like, the scenes with her and Bill are, like you don't see things, but it's strongly implied, and they're tough. Like, they're really hard to watch.
Yeah.
But I think that it seems like they handled it in a very delicate way and in a way that would have protected that young actress. And the way the camera angles are shot, it's like I don't even it didn't even seem like he was in the same shots as her. You know what I mean? It's like the camera was his point of view in a lot of it. But I think it was really I don't know, I guess for me it was just really impactful because a lot of the things that he's saying, he says to her, "Why did you pick me?" Which is like
Mm.
such a like powerful statement, you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
in control. You're the one that picked me and like I was just here like a flower in a field, and like you came and plucked me up. Like so much of that is just such
Yeah.
classic like grooming language. And then also says stuff like, young boys would never treat you this well. Like I'm protecting you.
Yes, no young boy would ever do this for you, but I'm not giving up in reference to I don't even know how to say it.
Her inability to
Opening
receive him,
thank you.
yes, would be a way to say it. As it's happening, like for the most part, she doesn't she's not it's kind of what we've talked about. It's like she's not being air quotes movie raped, right? Like she's not being pinned down. She's not screaming. She's not
Mhm.
crying. Like, but she's clearly overwhelmed by what's happening to her, but going along with it because that's what happens. Like, because you're being told
Yeah.
all these stories, you're being told that you're equals. And, yeah, the whole idea that we're a family and we're all the same and we're equal and you're so much better than everybody and you're so mature for your age and you picked me. Like, those are really powerful signals that you're sending to a young kid that makes them think, yeah, I'm consenting to this. And that's a story she was telling herself up until her 40s, right? Where when her mom called in the beginning of the movie, she's like, "Well, yeah, he was my first boyfriend, but I knew you wouldn't understand. You just freak out." Which is such a like 13-year-old response. Like, you just want to get it, mom. God.
Yes. Yeah, and that she's still saying that, and yeah, and that's the part that I think kind of really was getting things going for me a little bit as far as, like, my own history because it was just so relatable because, yes,
Mhm.
Jenny, it's hard to watch, but there is, like I think there's part of her that was curious
Yeah,
about sex, which
as
is a
you would
normal thing,
be.
as you would
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
but the way that he just, like, he broke her down, like, even that scene where
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, you're cold, right? Like, you're cold. Let me give you a blanket. I'm taking care of you. Oh, now I'm gonna get under here
Yeah.
with you." Like, he just, like, broke down her defenses and framed it around this, like, "I'm a caring adult, and I love you so much, and we're
Mhm.
together, and we're boyfriend and girlfriend." He fucking and this really happened. I read in the article. Like, she said that he really did take her to, like, some event with his that scene where they're, like, with a bunch of other, like, kids, like, where he's
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she's just sitting there, like, drinking a milkshake or something, and it's, like, a bunch of, like, teenage boys, Bill and her. She said that that actually
Mhm.
happened, like, so he was very
Wow.
much treating her like a girlfriend,
Mhm.
but so it was very confusing to her, so I could totally see why, why it was easy for her to always have this memory kind of tucked away in that frame of
Mhm.
this was a normal relation. He took so much care of me. He made
Yep.
sure I felt okay. He didn't hit me. Yeah, her body was rejecting it. Like she was throwing up. Oh, that's a scene. Didn't the grandma isn't the grandma the one who found her throwing up?
No, she throws up at his apartment after, and then she throws up at home the morning she's supposed to go meet them, and then her mom finds her and she's like puts her back in bed.
Okay. Oh
But I
yeah.
don't
And
know if
then she
maybe the grandma
calls.
was, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
so like she's
Okay.
getting abused. Yeah, so she gets like sexually assaulted by and abused, molested, all raped, all the terms, by Bill. And then I also really like the way they handled this. So then eventually, so as as Jenny's trying to like recover all this information, she's going full detective mode on her life, which was also so fucking relatable, right? Where you're like reaching back
Mhm.
out to people you haven't talked to in 20 years, and you're going through all of your old photos, and you're going through old diaries, and you're like
Yeah.
having
Former
to literally,
students.
yeah, and you're having to literally like dissect your whole fucking childhood to try to like find this information, which is a trip in itself, like, is such an experience. But then somebody says, "Oh, well, yeah, don't you remember so and so?" And it turns out there was a fourth girl that had been there that summer that she had completely forgotten about. And I also love the way that they like depicted that, because then again, it goes back through those flashback memories, but then now this actress, this new character is just in all of them, kind of in the periphery and background, which I thought was also super relatable, because I know, like, in my case, there was a fellow classmate that when I had reached out to people to try to, like, see if anybody had seen anything or if anything had happened to them, with our abuser, there was a former classmate that was like, dude, yeah, we had study hall, just the two of us in his classroom. It was just the 3 of us, senior year, and he was always touching you, and he was always sitting by you, and he would, like, turn the lights off when we watch movies, and I, like, saw him touching you. When I say that I completely forgot about that study hall, I completely forgot about it until she said it, and then it was just like
Mm.
in the movie where my brain went, "Pum, pum, 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 pum," and all these memories came back, and I was like, "Oh my god." And so I thought the movie did such a phenomenal job of just depicting that, like, yeah, recovering your own memories and how strange memory is and things you wouldn't think you'd forget.
Yeah. Uh, yes. I I don't know how I probably will cut out everything I'm about to say, but yeah, part I would like to talk it through with you that there were, yeah, just some moments where and she was like, "I don't know if that was like crossing a line." And I was like, "No," but also I completely forgot that. Like
Yeah.
and there's just been other little things too where like, I just my brain just open and it's just, like, it really makes me afraid of what is still
Mhm.
hiding in there, and
Oh,
watching this
yeah.
movie had me journaling about stuff that I need to process in therapy and, like, talk through in
Yeah.
therapy, and yeah, like, there were moments too where, like, I don't know how to describe it, Sarah, but, like, just watching her with this older man and that dynamic felt in my body, like, familiar,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. No, I
like
mean, like, I literally, that's why I was messaging you. I was like, dude, this is might be the most accurate depiction of like what we've gone through. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like
Mhm.
the whole thing, not just like the abuse part of it and the grooming part of it and that kind of stickiness, but like yeah, just the memory and the forgetting things and realizing people did see things and other people didn't. And, you know, trying to like play detective to your own fucking life while also trying to have a job and trying to like have a relationship and trying to not be a fucking monster to people. Like I just yeah, I was floored. I was just like, dude, this is I feel like I want everyone to watch it that like had knows us to just be like, or anybody who's gone through something like this to be like, hey, this is pretty close to what it is. And yeah, like yeah, the parts I would agree. Like the parts where they were like together, I definitely had like a really weird combination feeling of like, this is disgusting, this is upsetting, this is horrible, but also, oof, like this also feels very relatable in a way that is like all of those things plus other things. Like I was just like, whoo, yeah, like it's kind of like what you talked about, I think, with what the fuck was that stupid movie we hated?
Miller's Girl.
Miller's Girl. Yeah, like there was just a little bit of that where it was like, and that was obviously such a ridiculous, like over the top, trash novel version. But yeah, like just that stickiness of like that confusion, right? Like when that happens
Mhm.
to you and you're young and in the moment you're not upset that it's happening to you. Of course that's like an erotic memory and it's going to trigger something in you, but then it's this horrible combination of like disgust and
Mhm.
slight titillation, but then I'm also like, but isn't that what it's like probably for most people? And then I'm like, I don't know. How broken is my brain? I don't know.
How
This
deep
is
does
why we
this
have
go?
therapists.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so like even I had this perfume that smells exactly like something I sprayed on myself when I was probably like a 10 to 13 years old.
Mhm.
And I cannot think of it. Or I couldn't think of it. And then I was like scrolling through Instagram, like the 90s nostalgia. Like, do
Mm.
you remember ever having any of these? And I'm flipping through and I see the spray and like
Yeah.
immediately I was like, that's the smell. That's the smell. So it's just like, yeah, wild how even like if it's not a bad memory, just like what our brain
Mhm.
chooses to be able to easily recall and not recall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was as a survivor, yes, it definitely was super, super relatable in so many ways. And then yeah, you mentioned like you're trying to dig through your life and reconcile memories and put pieces together while you're also still trying to like hold a job and have relationships and whatever. And there is that scene where she's I don't know, she looked drunk to me, but she's clearly not doing well. She's giving a lecture in class and she's having this student talk about her first time
Mm.
having sex. And you can see almost like the jealousy, the bitterness of
Mm.
like, oh,
Mhm.
you got a normal, awkward, bad experience
Yeah.
and I didn't, that I had this
Mhm.
horrible, awful experience. Like I could relate to that too. This came up also in was it Being Lolita? Yeah, I think it was Being Lolita. Allison Wood writes about how like, when she had sex with boys her own age, it was, they're skinny and they don't got a lot of muscle and it's awkward and everyone's
Yeah.
awkward and no one knows what they're doing. And, I didn't lose my virginity to our abuser, but he was the second person that I had
Mhm.
sex with,
Same.
and I and I really unfortunately think that that's why he enters my dreams so much in a sexual way
Mhm.
is because of that, and I there is part of me that's sad that I didn't really get to experience, like, the awkward teenage sex, like, no one really knows what they're doing, kind of like,
Yeah.
like, there's part of me that when I was watching that scene, it reminded me of how I felt when being Lolita and being like, "Oh, yeah, like, I get where that, like, anger comes from, even though it's being misdirected at this poor student who you're kind of embarrassing,
I
but
know that
I
poor girl
get
is like,
I
"Ugh."
know.
But
She
again,
was going with it, but yeah.
I like that the film depicts a complicated survivor, right? Like, cause she
Mhm.
is being aggressive. Like, there's a few scenes where she's teaching, because she's teaching at a school about being a documentarian, and like, yeah, there's a few scenes with her students where like she's being edgy, you know what I mean? And not edgy like pushing their boundaries. Like she's being like kind of mean or like a little like hot Or even when somebody calls her back, maybe it's the other student that she had forgotten had been there, calls her back. She just fucking walks out of class. She's just like, gotta take this call and just leaves mid lecture, you know?
Yeah.
But again, I think it does a really good job of just depicting like how disruptive this is to her life and how her behavior kind of becomes erratic and like a little volatile. But it makes sense because she's being pulled back into her 13-year-old self, right? And like
Mhm.
what she's doing is trying to recover who she was and like figure out what happened to her. So it would make sense that her behavior would kind of regress a little bit and be a little bit like, you know, I didn't get a lollipop. I'm going to kick you in the shins. You know what I mean? Like, I'm mad that you
Yeah.
have something that I don't. And it's a totally understandable feeling. I mean, you and I talk about that too, of just like thinking about the time that we lost or the experiences that we missed out on because of our abuse. You know what I mean? And like, I think that is totally an understandable part of it. But I think usually all that gets depicted is like sadness, not
Mhm.
rage as much. And so I liked that they kind of depicted that. So I feel like I was saying it before and then we went off track, but she's being abused by Bill. And then she's invited to a weekend where it's going to be Bill, Jenny, Mrs. G, and then what was the other girl's name?
Iris.
Iris. So Iris was the fourth girl at this like camp that she kind of forgot was there. And she was a college age young woman, young lady, who was actively being abused by Bill and Mrs. G at the time, although Jenny did not know that at the time. But the plan was that the four of them were going to have an orgy together at some hotel. And the morning that they were supposed to go, Jennifer wakes up and is puking and like can't go, and her mom cancels the trip. And then that's when, you know, at 13, she like calls and she's like, I'm not coming over. I'm never coming over again. I don't ever want to see you again. Okay, bye. Click. Right. And that's kind of how she got away from them at the time. And yeah, I just thought I wanted to wrap it back around to that because Mrs. G the whole time, like they never show her, you know, sexually abusing or physically abusing Jenny. But yeah, there's all this grooming activity happening. And it does have that like Maxwell vibe about it, where it's like she's setting it up for him. And then she's going to swoop in once like the groundwork has been laid. And then it does show her talking to Miss G as an adult, and kind of trying to like pick
Oof.
information out of her, which is rough. Like those are some rough scenes to watch. I love that actress though.
Especially, yeah.
She's
Ah,
fucking phenomenal.
yeah, Frances Conroy. I love
Oh,
her
dude,
too.
she's great in everything she's ever been in. Yeah, I thought even that was super relatable, dude. Like trying to talk to somebody who
That
like
was rough. Who
cannot.
just won't
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
even acknowledge what you are saying to them. It's just like, "No. No, I was so, oh my god, it was
But it's
just so
frustrating because
maddening to
you've
watch."
been there. Like, it's frustrating because, like, you've had those
Yeah.
conversations, whether it's about, like, this abuse or other things in your life. Like, we've all, I think, had that conversation with somebody who is just like, "The sky is not blue, and you need to stop talking about it." Like, it will not
And yeah.
connect with anything you're saying.
And Jennifer's, like, begging her, like, "Please, just tell me, like, you saw it too, like, just some kind of
Yeah.
acknowledgement," and she's just, like, flat out ignoring her.
Yeah.
It's rough.
And yeah, and I also thought I had written it down, like, at the very beginning of the movie, Jennifer hit like falls off the horse when she's like doing training when she's little and she's like 13. And Miss G like helps her get back, you know, she's like, we got to get right back on that horse, blah, blah, blah. And she says to her, there are no bad horses, only bad riders. And I kept thinking about it and kept going back to it. And maybe, I don't know if you noticed that or if it stood out to you, but I interpreted that very much like this thing that's bigger than you and is more powerful than you hurt you and it's your fault because you're a bad
Mm.
writer. And I felt like that was like a really groomy fucking statement. You know what I mean? And like I'm sure it's a normal horse riding training thing, but like I couldn't not think of it that way, right? Where it's like, well, you're the one that's in control, even though this thing is bigger than you and has more power than you. And if something bad happens to you, you're hurt, it's your fault because you didn't handle it correctly.
They repeat that phrase, a few times. It's
Mm.
something that's repeated throughout the movie. Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if it's I'll have to ask Nikki. She's a horse girl. Nikki, I know you're listening. Tell us.
Horse
Um
girls unite. Tell us all about it.
But yeah, I agree. I think it is a very subtle way to send that message. So eventually, Jennifer
Mhm.
gets in touch with Bill, with her abuser. I think he's like the last person that she tries to track down because she tracks down, yes, like former writing mates and even Mrs. G, who will not talk to her about the past.
Mhm.
But she finally gets in touch with Bill and he won't return her calls. And then she finds out that he's getting an award, which
Mm-mm-mm.
I think is a relatable experience for a lot
Yep.
of survivors, which I can't even imagine. Oh, the rage. Can you imagine?
No.
No, because everyone
Girl,
hates him. Okay.
the way that I would show up and just fucking ruin it. I would ooh,
Same.
you and I would just be like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I was
Woof."
really glad that she and Martin, her partner, fiance, I think, at this
Mhm.
point, that she allowed him to be with her that day. Like, he didn't go inside with her, but he was there.
Mhm.
His presence was known, when she went in to confront Bill. And some of what we see in that confrontation between her and Bill,
Mhm.
some of that are actual words that she said to him. And that when we see young Bill, when we see like the flashback, because there's kind of some scenes where she's having Laura Dern's voice is like you don't see the voice, but she's asking questions, and then you just see like like young Mrs. G or young Bill
Mhm.
or someone else, and they're kind of answering. It's almost like a thought exercise she's doing with herself. And so she says that, yeah, some of what the young Bill says to her, as far as like his reasoning and loving her so much and whatever,
Mhm.
are reasons that that the real Bill did give to her when she was trying to confront him. So I like that she was able to add some of those real life details to this fictionalized story. Even if she didn't actually get to confront him at this award ceremony, I'm
Mhm.
glad that she was able to say some of these words like you were the grown up, which
Yeah.
I literally wrote in my victim impact statement
Mhm.
about our abuser.
What a dream to be able to, like, walk into a fancy affair looking great. That scene where they showed her getting ready, like, oh my god, that scene made me so uncomfortable, though, because it was such a mix of, like, I get it, right? Like, you wanna look good because you wanna be like, "I'm doing fine." Especially as a woman, I think, like, looking good helps us feel good or helps us feel, like, powerful,
Mhm.
but then also watching her put on, like, kind of a sexy dress and, like, heels and then lipstick, I was like, "Oh, no." Like, you know what I mean? Because then it's, like, also in some weird way, it's like, are you dressing up for him? But then when she got there and it was, like, clearly a very, like, fancy event, I was like, "Okay, that makes a little bit more sense," right? Like, you can't just show up in your, like, pajamas.
Yeah, you're
Like,
gonna stand
I
out.
gotta go yell at this guy. Like, they're
Yeah.
just gonna think you're crazy and drag you out. But yeah, like, what a dream to be able to just, like, go in looking great and just be like, "That guy's a fucking pervert, and this is what he did to me," and, like, ruin his night and oust him in front of a shitload of people is like, that's all any
Mhm.
of us
Including
want.
his current wife.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the wife. Yikes. Yeah, and then yeah, it's one of those things you think about it, it's like, okay, did she have any idea? Is she totally blindsided? Did her life just get ruined? Or is she a piece of shit that also, like, is justifying crappy behavior? And then, yeah, I like the way it ended, where it was just, like, her in the bathroom, like,
Oh.
laugh, cry. That also was very relatable, like, that emotion of just, like, kind of all feelings at once, and you're just kind of hysterically cried, laughing like a maniac, and all that kind of pent up tension coming out at once, and then yeah, like sitting down on the ground, and then it's the actress that played her as, like, the 13-year-old sitting on the ground next to her. I just thought was very cool, right? Like, it's just that, like,
Yeah.
you were the protector that you needed, and you, like, took care of that little girl and kind of put your
Mm.
pieces back together.
I really loved the scene before she's like we see her and little Jenny side by side on the bathroom floor where again it's like one of those scenes where Laura Dern's voice is kind of like this ghost voice and we
Mhm.
see little Jenny just like walking down the hall of the school and she's got a little sass to her and she's like I'm not the victim. Little Jenny is like I was in love. This was my first boyfriend. I'm not hurt like you want me to be. I'm not sad about this experience like you want me to be. And adult Laura
Mhm.
Dern's voice is like this was not a normal relationship. Like, you're like, it's just like this back and forth
Mhm.
that I think also very relatable of you can understand both sides, right? And I think about how many victims of abuse and grooming are out there that are still telling themselves the story of this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was in love. I was in love. No one will understand. I was in love.
Mhm.
I was not hurt, right? And then the danger of just like hanging on to that thought if you're going to be
Mhm.
around kids in the future. It's just such a good movie. I really liked it. And
Yeah.
I liked that they show this, reckoning between her and her mom, or her mom did at one point in the movie say something like, "I asked you about it and you looked me in the eye and you said no." At the end, it's very clear that saying something like that is coming from, her own guilt, and she
Yeah.
says, "I failed you as a mother." I like what you said about her mom being her aha moment, and
Mhm.
kind of it's alluded to that Jenny's mom might have suspected and maybe did wanna do more, but for
Mhm.
whatever reason, have the time, whatever, she felt like she couldn't, and her husband wouldn't listen to her when she brought up
Mhm.
concerns, and so it seems like now that she's more of an independent woman, she's having this reckoning with herself and apologizes to Jenny.
Yeah, and I think that that's nice that they depicted all of those, the ramifications it can have for other relationships. I mean, God, we talked about that so much on the pod. Is just the trauma onion, man. It just keeps peeling back. Like the ripple effects this really has on people's lives is massive. And uncovering that never really ends, as we like begrudgingly discussed, I think last week. Of like, it's just kind of like the more you dig in, the more you're like, oh my God. Which is why a lot of people don't dig in, because it is a lot of work and it is heavy and it is hard and it can be a big deterrent to people. But, you know, I also think a big part of it too is, and she kind of talks about it in the film, is when she realizes that Bill and Mrs. G were abusing Iris or sleeping with Iris, however you
Yes.
want to depict that, that's such a crushing moment for her. And that for me was super relatable because that's like it was when I
Mhm.
found out about you. You know what I mean? And it's like I always kind of suspected. There's one thing to suspect there was somebody else, but to know for a fact there was somebody else also crushes any of that remnant that you were special. And I know that sounds so fucked up, and I know that sounds, like, so toxic, but, like,
It's
that
true
is
though.
true, like, that's the Kool-Aid we drank, right? Is that, like, there was
Yes.
something about you and me, Diana, with our braces and our glasses and our whatever that were so powerful that they lured a grown man away from common sense and reason, and he risked his career for us. Y It's crazy, like, in
Because the
retrospect
heart wants
now,
what the heart wants.
oh, my heart wants some things, let me tell ya. Woo! But, like, that can be such a crushing aspect of it because even if you now as an adult can say, "I know this is fucked up, I know this is wrong, I know it was illegal, I know he or she should not have done this," there's still that part of your ego that might still be holding on to that story that, like, there was something special between us, or we did
Mm.
have some special connection, and then when you realize you were just one of many, it's like, well, there goes that, and then you're like, well, now I just feel terrible, like, so I like that they kinda touched on that in the film too, that
Yeah.
seemed to really be the thing that helped her kind of be like, "Oh, well, fuck this,"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that because somehow I missed that in my notes, but I do have here that it's just like all of it is so hard for her to acknowledge like what happened to her.
Mhm.
But then also like finally she does acknowledge what happened to her. And then there's this other layer of also acknowledging that it was probably not just her because she says so convincingly, there weren't others. I would have known. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's exactly what you're saying of. And I remember too, like when I was with our abuser, there was part of me that I always felt that there was someone in Iowa because he alluded to that. But even like when he was crossing boundaries and trying to groom current students, when I was with him, there was part of me that was like, well, he's only done this with me. Like, it's just me. Like, he's risked
Mhm.
all of this and, it's me. Like, why and I'm still with him. Like, why would he there's no way he's trying to at that time like, get this kid to be his girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, however, so yeah, that is a whole other acceptance for some survivors
Mhm.
of being like, "Oh," and for so many of us, that
Mhm.
is what because we care so much more for other people than about
It's
ourselves.
true.
But
It's true.
when we see that other people are being fucked with, that's when we get into, okay, I'm gonna burn some shit down mode. And yeah, and I agree that it seemed like that was very much kind of the last straw for her is when she found out about Iris and then when she confronted Iris about it, who
Mhm.
also it seemed like didn't really remember.
But
And
she also said, "But it was the '70s." Like, she's also trying to explain it away, which
yeah,
I think just shows it's just another person who's still processing, like, stuff that
yes.
happened to them, you know what I mean? I think it is a film that does a very good job at depicting, like, this is how hard it can be to recover memory, and this is what it's like to be around people who can face it and people who can't face it, you
Mm,
know?
mm.
And this is the world that we live in, and, like, there are just gonna be people around you that are like, "Nope, we're not talking about that," or, like, "We're not gonna talk," like, or, "That's not how I remember it. It sucks to be you. I don't feel that way," you know? Like, that is part of being a survivor. Like, you are going to run into all of those. I would say the only thing it didn't depict, but maybe it's just because, at this point she's not, like, being public about it yet, was, like, the nosy looky-loos, you know what I mean? Like, that's another aspect of there's always, like, the weirdos that are just like, "Ooh," like, "Tell me," people who just want a juicy cup of tea or something, but
Mm.
yeah, I thought it was I thought it was really good. I really, really liked it. I thought it was really well done. I love Laura Dern also. I think she's a great actor. And I don't know. I would suggest this to anybody with the caveat of, like, be prepared,
Yeah.
take care of yourself, maybe go for a walk afterwards.
Another thing that I just kind of realized is we're going to have a conversation soon with someone who is studying grooming and sexual abuse. That we've mentioned we're not right now, but we found someone who is and she has her own story, but it involves someone who, like Bill and Mrs. G, they're instructors of some kind, but there's no
Mhm,
licensing board. There's no so it
mhm,
yeah, I think in this story with Jennifer, you know, it didn't result in like her suing him or like a
mhm.
courtroom or police or anything. It was really just her coming to terms with what happened to herself
Yeah.
and trying to hold her abusers accountable by just getting a verbal acknowledgement. And she failed.
Mhm.
She didn't fail. They failed her by not being honest with her. But
But
she
that is
got
such a
for her. That's what it looked like.
realistic, yeah, and that is
Yeah.
such a realistic depiction of what it is like for so many people because what the statistics are terrible, right? On, like, actual, not only ones that go forward into an actual court case, but ones that end in sentencing. It's I mean, it's tiny. It's a
Less than
tiny, tiny.
4%.
Yeah, it's tiny, tiny, tiny. And so I do think it's important to depict other forms of victory, you know what I mean? Because and to
Mhm.
me, it did feel like victory. Just that shot of her in the bathroom on the floor with, like, her childhood self is just like
Crying, laughing.
cry laughing, because it is just this idea of, like, I don't need anybody else. You know what I, like, this is it. Like, this is my, like, healing. It's just like I'm reclaiming who I was. Had forgotten who I was. I had disconnected from myself, and I just went in there and, like, defended my childhood self and stood up against this person, and that might be all that she ever gets, and that's not nothing, and I think that so many survivors get so discouraged, or even other people. Like, I've had people say that to me, like, "Oh god, he didn't get any, like, prison time," like, about our abuser, like, "Oh, like, it's so disappointing," and I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, sure, yeah, that would have been a delight, but don't discredit the fact that he lost his teaching license in 2 states and had to
Mhm.
resign from his job of 17 years where he was
And
tenured
move to a different
and
state.
moved to a different state and, like, is shamed. You know what I mean? Like, let's not
Yeah.
discredit what was
That's a
done.
win.
Yeah, that's a huge win. And, so I think just as much as we've talked about the limited views of what rape is, I think we also have really pop culture wise, right? Limited views of justice and
Mhm.
success for survivors. And I like that this one was like her success was accepting what happened to her.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That was her
Mhm.
success. It was that she finally was able to see what happened to her and like start the process of actually like facing it and dealing with it. Cause it is a huge success. So many people never get there. So
I
I
agree.
say all the thumbs up.
Yes. All the thumbs up. Sorry, my cat it's about that time. She
Yeah.
is being
Sassy be
really,
sassy.
really needy. Sassy be sassing around 6 o'clock. Thank you for recommending it and bringing it to the Groom Scroll table. I really enjoyed this one, even if it was stirring. But
Mhm.
it's stirring up stuff that needs to be stirred so that I can work through
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
yes. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning into another Groom Scroll. We don't know what the next one's going to be, so I'm not going to make empty
Mhm.
promises.
Good job.
But
Look at you.
I know. Look at all of
Learning.
this progress. I'm learning.
You're like facing new problems. You're not making claims that you can't make for the future. Proud of you. Doing
Huzzah.
great.
Send us your thoughts. Send us an email at bloomingaftergrooming@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at bloomingafterpod. And I think that's it. And we have a website,
I was like,
bloomingafterpod.com.
I think we're missing.
I think there's more. All right. And, just keep doing your best to grow through.
What you go through.
Boy. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So, our next, let's just to recap. Jesus.
Recrap. You love to recrap.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed the podcast.
I did enjoy the
They are
podcast.
so-
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, thank
I'm
you
glad
all.
that you enjoyed the movie. Jesus. We're
Sesame
doing
was quite
great.
distracting. I know.
Yeah. We're going to blame Sesame.